Hello everyone, Ellie here, and I would like to talk about some ideas about how humanity can help everyone thrive. This is Techciety. Now imagine if you were given a stipend of money on a monthly basis for life, regardless of who you are. How much stress would be relieved knowing that this allowance would help you if you were struggling? Maybe you're not struggling, but you would like to start a business that might seem risky. Would this money help you achieve that dream? If you're a student, would this money allow you to focus on school instead of paying expenses like student loans, housing, or other living and school expenses? What if you were a new parent? Would it allow you to spend more time with your child instead of rushing to go to work and leaving someone else to take care of them? The argument for UBI brought into the mainstream came from presidential candidate Andrew Yang, who felt that every American citizen 18 and older should be given $1,000 a month, no questions asked. And the funding would come from a variety of sources, with a big one coming from companies profiting and utilizing data from its citizens. Recently in America, a portion of its citizens are getting a one-time payment of $1,200 from the CARES Act, with a bill currently being proposed for $2,000 a month for 6 months. While it certainly helps a lot of people who are able to benefit from the stimulus check, it doesn't reach quite enough people who need the help, and doesn't qualify under the characteristics of a universal basic income. The funding of it also requires a government printing money, which, as we know, results in inflation. So in reality, the issue is not that the act of universal basic income has been the problem, but rather the way universal basic income being implemented has been the problem. Places around the world have implemented a form of universal basic income or variations of it in test phases. Alaska has had their permanent fund dividend since the 1960s. Funded by oil money, each citizen gets between $800 and $2,000 a month in relation to the price and revenue of oil. They found that poverty was reduced by 20% and that the dividend had no effect on employment. Finland tested a form of basic income for 2 years and gave $640 a month to 2,000 random, unemployed people between 25 and 58. But because it was given to a select group of people out of its 5 million citizens for the purpose of helping them find jobs, it can't be called a universal basic income. With the results of those, they found those in the test group experienced significantly fewer problems related to health, stress, and ability to concentrate than those in the control group, the researchers wrote. Those in the test group were also considerably more confident in their own future and their ability to influence societal issues than the control group. So again, Finland also stopped the program because their goal was not to liberate the poor or fight inequality, but rather promote employment. Doesn't sound like a very fair test, right? Iran has nationally paid their citizens $1.50 per day in lieu of subsidies on bread, water, electricity, heating, and fuel. They state, "Our results do not indicate a negative labor supply effect for either hours worked or the probability of participation in market work." The report found no evidence for the idea that people will work less under a universal income, and found that in some cases, like in the service industry, people worked more, expanding their businesses or pursuing more satisfying lines of work. The researchers did find that young people, specifically people in their 20s, work less, but noted that Iran never had a high level of employment among young people, and that they were likely enrolling in school with the added income. The original idea of universal basic income was first proposed by Thomas More in the 16th century in his book Utopia. In it, his character Raphael Nonsenso states, "Petty larceny isn't bad enough to deserve the death penalty, and no penalty on earth will stop people from stealing. if it's their only way of getting food. Instead of inflicting these horrible punishments, it would be far more to the point to provide everyone with some means of livelihood, so that nobody's under the frightful necessity of becoming first a thief and then a corpse. He understands that people will do whatever it takes to survive, right? There are a multitude of reasons for how people got into the positions that they got into. Some people have worked really hard to get to the top, and some got really lucky. Some people were unfortunate where their business went bankrupt and became poor despite how hard they worked. Others were just born into poverty, and that's all they know. Should we condemn people because of their position? How are we to judge a person because they are in a better position than us, or even one that isn't on the same level of us? There have been a number of proponents for a universal basic income or similar programs over time. Founding father of the USA, Thomas Paine, wrote, "Separate an individual from society and give him an island or a continent to possess, and he cannot acquire personal property. He cannot be rich. All accumulation, therefore, of personal property beyond what a man's own hands produce is derived to him by living in a society, and he owes on every principle of justice, of gratitude, and of civilization a part of that accumulation back again to society from whence the whole came. There shall be paid to every person when arrived at the age of 21 years the sum, as a compensation in part, for the loss of his or her natural inheritance by the introduction of the system of landed property, to every person, rich or poor, because it is in lieu of the natural inheritance which as a right belongs to every man over and above the property he may have created or inherited from those who did." Martin Luther King Jr. said, "I am now convinced that the simplest solution to poverty is to abolish it directly by new widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income. The dignity of the individual will flourish when the decisions concerning his life are in his own hands, when he has the assurance that his income is stable and certain, and when he knows that he has a means to seek self-employment. Personal conflicts between husband, wife, and children will diminish when the unjust measurement of human worth on a scale of dollars is eliminated." Milton Friedman believes, "The people who get on welfare lose their human independence. They become subject to the dictates and whims of their welfare supervisor, who tell them whether they may live here or there, what they may do with their lives. They're treated like children. They would be far better off if we just gave them money and let them spend it. Because in doing so, we not only give them more help immediately, we will strengthen their responsibility." Over 1,000 economists in 1968 signed this statement calling for a universal basic income. Over 1,000. These Nobel laureates support universal basic income. Desmond Tutu, Robert Solow, Amartya Sen, Vernon Smith, Daniel McFadden, Muhammad Yunus, Peter Diamond, Christopher Pissarides, Angus Deaton, Abhijit Banerjee, Esther Duflo. Other recent advocates for universal basic income includes Keith Ellison, James Baker, Jack Dorsey, Barack Obama, Robert Reich, Greg Mankiw, Pierre Omidyar, Eric Olin Wright, Tim Draper, Sam Altman, Charles Murray, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Rutger Bregman, and Andrew Yang. Even Pope Francis had this to say. This may be the time to consider a universal basic wage, which would acknowledge and dignify the noble, essential tasks you carry out. It would ensure and concretely achieve the ideal, at once so human and so Christian, of no worker without rights. These are proponents for universal basic income. There definitely will be arguments for and against it, and that's what we'll explore next. So tune into the next video where we go over the arguments for and against universal basic income. Until next time, take this information and make wise moves.